Hey everybody, this is Scotty with Sketchy's Garage, and today we're working on the mean green Chevelle. We're fixing to prep up a few of these parts for paint. I'm just going to take a quick look at them. I've already masked the bottom side of the wheel wells. I'm going to go ahead and mask these off camera because it's pretty boring to watch. So is the prep work, but I figure I'll prep one. That way you guys get a good idea of what's going on, and then we'll get some paint on them today or tomorrow. We're going to go ahead and do the hood, all the fender edges, these right here, the bottom of the fenders. I like to paint all that stuff twice, so I'll go ahead and edge it out now, and then we'll put it on the car and then paint it again, just because a lot of times it's hard with it on the car to get like that, to get paint on that edge and these edges. So I just paint them twice. Not only that, whenever you're painting jams, especially your exposed jams, I like to try to get them as slick as possible because it's really hard to wet sand and buff that. You know, you can nib a little bit of dirt out of it, but if you got to wet sand and buff it to get it to look good, it's a pretty big chore. So I try to do it with it off the car, lay it down flat, and your clear usually lays out a little bit nicer for you. Go take a quick look at the hood. It's going to be pretty fun to paint because just the shape of it, but we'll do the best we can. Alright guys, I'm going to go ahead and finish masking that stuff off, and then I'll be back in a few minutes. One quick thing everybody I meant to go over before is all your J clips. If I go ahead and take them out, and what I like to do with them, I like to powder coat them. That way you got some kind of paint, some kind of protection on them. Because if you don't, it'll rust, and then it'll rust here, and then your rust is just going to end up bleeding. So what I found works the best is just putting them in the oven and powder coating them. You can leave them on there and paint them, but what normally happens is when you tighten it down, it's going to move over like that, and then you're going to have an area that don't have as much paint protection, and then you'll get a little bit of rust start right there. So I just like to take them out the way altogether, powder coat them up, get good paint protection in behind it, and then slip it back on before we put the car together. Okay guys, I got everything masked up, ready to go. You might ask why I went ahead and masked it now before sanding it. It's because I don't like getting the undercoat dirty. It's kind of a pain to clean up. I like a real clean presentation. So I always mask anything, because if you start sanding on this, it'll get down in the little nooks and crannies, and you can get it out, but it's kind of a pain. I'd rather just mask it off, keep it clean as possible. It'll keep your paint job cleaner. It's just something that I do. You don't have to do it, but it's one of my preferences. We're going to get started on this fender well and show you what we're going to do. I got a taco of 320. It's just some 320 grit, little half moon or taco, whatever you want to call it. Got some scuff pads. I like to cut them in smaller pieces because we got a lot of little nooks and crannies, and it tends to get in there a little bit better. We got a sanding block. It's real pliable, real smooth. With this having so much curve in it, if you was to have a hard block, you would take and cut a lot of straight lines in it, and if you didn't get them out, it would stick out after you based it and cleared it. So whenever you're working with something that's got a lot of curve to it, make sure your block will contour to it. We're going to hit it with a little bit of 320 first, just to knock off the roughness, and then finish up with 400 and then scuff pad it. Okay guys, before we get started, we're going to have a quick talk about why we sand. If you look at these three lines, this is pretty much what your primer looks like, whether you know it or not. And then the tendency is to cut it and it'll look like this, but more importantly, you want to get it as flat as possible, and I'll tell you why. Say you go and you cut it like this, you got it feeling smooth, feeling slick, but you still got a little bit of peel in it, you're going to have adhesion problems in them little tiny low spots. I know everybody's seen that car that's on for sale on the side of the road, looks really nice, got a really shiny paint job, but you look at it, it's got little tiny pimples all over it. Most of the time that's from not cutting the primer down flat, and it doesn't adhere to them little spots. So it's real important when you're sanding. That's the main reason, to get good adhesion for the paint and to get it slick. Like I say, to feel this, it feels real nice, but it's got texture to it. So we're going to sand it up, get it slicked out, and get some paint on it. We'll get started with my taco. Just brush over it lightly. I'm going to try not to seal the 2-hitter fender, so I'm going to go tread real lightly and try not to break through anywhere. You could probably use a DA width on these if you wanted to, if you had like a foam interface pad, but I've found it's just as easy to brush over it by hand. The 320, like I say, we just want to take and cut the top nib off pretty much, and then we'll come back with a 400 to slick it out. If your panel's been sitting a while and been handled a few times, it wouldn't hurt to wipe them off with some wax and grease remover. I like alcohol, spray cleaner, whatever floats the boat. Whenever you're hand sanding, make sure you're using this part of your hand and not your fingertips, because if you don't have enough sandpaper, you could actually dig grooves in it. So make sure you're using the palm of your hand and let the sandpaper do the work. It don't take a whole lot of pressure, just a little bit, just enough to keep the paper in your hand. Camera to show you guys something. I don't know if I can get it to pick it up or not, but you can see there's little tiny, I call them maybe a crater or whatever. Whenever you see that, you need to keep on sanding until that's completely gone. Some people use guide coat, but I don't like using it on the last coat of primer. I just try to get it good and straight before that, and then you can look at it and tell if you got all the peel out. You know, they switch to a block. The more time you spend sanding it and getting everything good and flat, the better your paint job will look. There's some painters out there that can help hide a lot of stuff, but if you're just now getting started, this is what's going to make you or break you. You get it good and flat here. It just makes the process that much easier. Looking at the panel, wanting to save us up at a time. We know from this point over, it's up underneath the fender well, or up underneath the fender. So this area right in here, you'll never see it anyway. So if you just wanted to buzz over with 320 to 400 real fast, and mainly focus on this area right here, that would be fine, because the only person that's really going to know about it is you. You can live with it, if someone else will tell you that's not good enough. So these projects, they can become very time demanding, so always keep that in the back of your head. Primer that we use on this is called Camco. It's a DTM. It actually sands a little bit harder than most 2K primers, but since going to it, I don't think I've ever seen a sand that scratches. It's worth it sanding a little bit harder, not to deal with having to sometimes go to 600. I'd almost bet you could paint this after just sanding it with 220. You wouldn't see any sanding scratches, but still haven't tried it. But it definitely a lot better about not getting sanding scratches from some of the other primers out there. The back piece of 400. And then our sandpaper copy. Alright, we're going to go ahead and switch to Scuff Pads and my feed. Whenever you're running over the Scuff Pad, all these little ribs and ridges, make sure you hit them really good. That's where the paint's going to want to pop or flake or come loose on you, so make sure you run the Scuff Pad over them real good, get real good adhesion over top of them. Alright everybody, let's take a quick look at it. I don't know if you guys can feel that, but it's smooth. Smooth, smooth, smooth. Alright, I'm gonna do these other pieces and come back with y'all later. Go have a good one.